Coach Su put his hand on the assistant teacher's shoulder and said, "Let me tell you, little Lee." He approached and warned him that he was just a teaching assistant. "There are many things you don't understand. You have to give excellent young people more opportunities so they can grow up. You have to pay attention to how you speak." At night, in the academy dormitory, Trong Triet's bed was spilled with water. He angrily asked everyone, "Who did this? You turned to ask Niem Diet then, did you throw water on my bed?" He shrugged his shoulders in a disdainful manner. "What do you say? I will do it." Du Min Veen is behind adding fuel to the fire. "Yes. There is no evidence. Don't spit blood on people." Trong Triet angrily cursed. "You guys are too much of a bully, you bastard. You wanted to rush in and hit him, but were stopped by two roommates holding your hands. Leave. Leave. Trong Triet, don't get excited. Will be punished." Niem Diak Then's bed was thrown over with a bucket of water. The roommates were startled, looking at Du Bin holding a large bucket of water. Du Min Veen panicked. "Du Bin, you are so bold." His face turned pale and his mouth opened. "How dare you throw water on Niem Diak Then's bed?" Du Bin calmly threw the box aside. "Is there anything I wouldn't dare to do? How about I do it?" Niem Diet then got angry and shouted, "Today you have to teach these poor people who don't know how high the sky and the earth are." He raised his fist and said, "I'll beat you to death." He closed one eye and leaned forward, saying, "I dodged." Niem Diet then changed his attack to kick him hard and shouted, "I'm dead to you." He stood still and calmly blocked the attack, responded to him, "I blocked." Niem Diet then curled his lips and confidently unleashed his ultimate move. "I will let you taste the Niem family's 100 shadow boxing techniques." In his heart, he firmly believes that he can beat you to death. You will surely die. Du Bin took out an hourglass. The sand in it kept flowing down. From a passerby's perspective, Niem Diet then shouted, with hundreds of images. He moved very quickly, but Du Bin still dodged easily. From Du Bin's perspective, he saw Niem Diet then shouting slowly, with hundreds of images of fists, and making moves extremely slowly. "I'm satisfied with the feeling that this ghost shadow seems to be effective." After slowing down time, his move had 100,000 loopholes. Du Bin grabbed his arms tightly. Niem Diak then was startled, panicked and stammered, How is that possible? The legendary 100 shadow fists are so fast, how can you catch me?" He smirked and grabbed his hands, raised up and looked down on him. It seemed that the Niem family's martial arts were just average. Du Bin pulled his hands away. The bones cracked. Niem Diak then screamed in agony, "It's my hand." Du Min Veen pulled the door open and whispered, "Distant history training, teacher, come here quickly." Du Bin caused trouble, is about to kill someone. Du Bin heard his voice whispering, and was startled. He pulled Niem Diet Then's hands from behind, and the bones were reshaped together, making a cry. He screamed loudly. He quickly acted and thought, why would this guy Du Min Veen accuse him? Coach Su came over to ask, "What happened? Please shut up for me." Niem Diet then grimaced and pointed at him. "Coach Su and Du Bin beat me, and even removed the bones in my arm. Mine. It hurts me to death." He looked at Du Bin who was whistling away, his face covered in sweat. Niem Diak then looked at his arm that was pointing out. His face turned pale. His mouth twitched incomprehensibly. Why did he suddenly get better? Coach Su frowned and looked at his hand and asked, "Isn't your arm still normal?" Niem Diet then turned pale, twisting and shaking his hand, confused. Hey. Du Bin stood behind him and silently breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he had been treated earlier. If he hadn't let the coach know, he would have used an excuse to punish him. Coach Su turned around and opened the door to go out, calling Niem Diet then to follow. "Niem Diet then, come here with me for a moment. The others should rest early," he exclaimed in surprise. In the hallway, Niem Diak then quickly explained to him, "Coach, you must believe me. Just now, Du Bin really attacked me." Coach Su showed an incredulous expression and said, "You're a martial artist. How come you can't beat him?" Niem Diak then leaned slightly, trying to force a smile to defend. "I can't beat him because my hand was injured this morning, so I can't use it." Coach Su seriously patted his shoulder and advised, "That's right. Your brother is very worried about you. Please call him if you have time. Is that clear?" Niem Diak then stood up straight and happily responded, "I know. I will call him now." In Doo Bin's room, he was folding up the blankets and pillows. He suggested to Trong Triet, "Please sleep with me today. Go get new bedsheets tomorrow." Trong Triet is a bit shy. Doo Bin, "Thank you." Niem Diet then walked into the room. Du Min Veen was already waiting at the door. He enthusiastically gave his bed to him. "Niem Diet then, you sleep in my bed. I'll sleep with a few others." Niem Diak then looked at him and Trong Triet happily talking back and forth to each other. Then tried to control his anger and thought, "Doo Bin, let me be proud for one night." Doo Bin didn't care to answer. "There's no need to thank him. It's just a small matter." Trong Triet happily joked with him a few words. "So I'll say it first. Don't attack me at night." The next morning at the basketball arena, the coach's voice rang out clearly. "Everyone has worked hard these past few days. No practice today, rest for a day." He happily introduced, "We invited a professional basketball player from Binhai to compete with everyone. The winner of the dinner will get extra food." Everyone raised their hands and shouted happily, "That's great. Coach, you are the best." A member of the basketball team took the ball forward and introduced, "Very honored to be invited to play 3v3 basketball with everyone. If everyone performs well, maybe they will even be recruited to our basketball team. Let's try." He stood behind the white line and continued to say, "I heard everyone's coach say, everyone is talented, so we will not hold back, first come first." He saw that no one spoke, so he threw the ball into the lap of a boy standing in front of Doo Bin and said, "Let's start with 2 people." That boy and Mr. N stood parallel to each other. The coach held the ball. The basket is between the 2 people, signaling and preparing. The ball is thrown up, accompanied by the coach's shout, "Starting." Players from both sides jumped up simultaneously. Mr. N caught the ball first. He also used his elbow to hit his friend's face. A scream rang out. That boy fell down and sat on the floor. Doo Bin saw that and shouted an accusation, "Coach, he broke the rules." Olden threw the ball to him. He raised his eyebrows and said, "It seems this classmate doesn't understand the rules of competitive basketball." Doo Bin looked at him, wondering, competitive basketball. He knocked the ball down, smilingly explaining that the rule of competitive basketball is that all offensive acts are allowed. Except for winning in points, if you knock down all the opposing team members, it is also considered a win. After saying that, he threw the ball hard and shouted, then the match continued. The ball flew past Doo Bin's face. He widened his eyes and turned slightly pale. Doo Bin quickly turned around and shouted his name, Trong Triet. Trong Triet, not paying attention, was hit hard in the face by the ball and fell to the ground. Doo Bin ran to help. He shook him awake and called, Trong Triet, wake up, how are you?" The blue-haired boy standing behind witnessed the whole incident, then cried in fear, begging to lose. "Me. I admitted defeat, if not, I would fight again." He put his arm around Old An's shoulder and smiled contemptuously. "What's wrong, kid? You're the only one left. Do you also want to admit defeat? If you admit defeat, then crawl on the ground and bark 3 times, I'll forgive you." Doo Bin placed the fainting Trong Triet on top and confidently said, "Why admit defeat? I can fight you all alone." I picked up the ball from the floor, but there's one thing we have to clarify first. Doo Bin held the ball tightly and smiled. He ran over and coldly snorted at him, "You are too arrogant." Doo Bin held the ball. As fast as the wind it slipped past. He couldn't catch him, so startled he turned his head and cursed. Doo Bin jumped up and put the ball into the basket easily. He thought to himself, adjusting the speed of the ghost shadow sand sculpture to the lowest level, it could last for half an hour, that was enough. He saw that he was not an easy person to deal with, so he said, "Olden, you and little Trin should teach this guy." Olden calmly replied, "No problem." The coach shouted loudly. The match continued. Doo Bin kept the ball and was cornered in the middle by Olden and little Trin. Olden punched him. He quickly bent down to dodge, but little Trin Nhan took the opportunity to steal the ball. He jumped high and threw the ball towards the basket. Du Bin gritted his teeth and silently cried, bang, the ball fell exactly into the basket. Du Bin frowned and looked at the ball. He was careless. If he lost the point, he would also lose. Lao En, behind him, took the opportunity to sneak attack him. After fighting, he painfully held his trembling hand tightly, looking back at Du Bin who was shaking his head slightly in shock. Teeth said, if it was a normal person, I would have broken his neck, his head is too hard. He laughed when he heard that, still disdainfully passing the ball back and forth between his hands and said, let's try it. Is his head hard, or are our fists hard? He jumped up with momentum. Du Bin supported his head. He was dizzy and sweating as he thought. He was attacked by a sneak attack just now. He was so shocked. He threw the ball at him from above, cruelly shouting, damn kid, go die. Du Bin reacted promptly, blocking the ball with both hands. He clenched his teeth and put his hand down, then saw him laughing loudly, throwing his fist at him, but it wasn't over yet. Du Bin caught his hand, threw him hard on the floor. The floor hit hard and cracked. His scream rang out pitifully. He lay on the ground, his whole body shaking in pain, broken pieces of bricks falling all over his body. Niem Diet then ran over in panic and asked, brother, how are you? Du Bin covered his nose with his hand, waving his hand mockingly at Niem Diet then. So this person is your brother, no wonder he has the smell is familiar. Niem Diet then came to help him teach. Angrily pointed at his face and explained, Du Bin, you intentionally hurt people. You are still here talking nonsense. You are not qualified to be a student of Supernova High School. He steadied his hips and refuted without hesitation, I'm just following the rules of competitive basketball, eliminating incompetent people. Niem Diak then, don't squirt blood. His throat was choked. He couldn't speak again. He could only stammer, you. Coach Su clapped his hands loudly, spoke up to cut them off. Okay then, be quiet, line up, an important announcement will be made. You didn't tell him, Niem Diet then, you take your brother to the medical room. Niem Diet then helped him and taught him, yes coach, Coach Su announced loudly. Received orders from superiors, announced an urgent mission to everyone. Now we will explain the mission in detail. He turned to assign me, Du Bin, this time you are the team leader. If the mission fails, you must take full responsibility. I just listen but don't say anything. Coach Lee was confused and wanted to speak up to stop him. Coach Su, about this, I didn't finish my sentence when Coach Van stopped me. Little Lee, it's none of your business. Du Minveen stood behind, secretly glanced up at him, thinking, this seems to be the mission that Ui Tri was talking about. Coach History continued to add, in addition, I will arrange a teacher to follow. He will follow according to each person's performance in this mission. The final score will determine whether you can join the Supernova School or not. Okay. Evening at the student dormitory. Ton Trong Triet's admiring voice rang out. Du Bin, this time you are too brave. Let me be the captain. Du Bin reluctantly said, if possible, I will give this captain position to you. Will you accept it? ? Trong Triet did not answer him, but looked up and exclaimed in surprise. You looked at the man wearing a Taoist outfit in surprise. Is this a teacher following him? Why is he a Taoist? Why do I feel like this mission seems evil? That Taoist didn't pay attention to them. He was happily chatting. You can just leave it to me. Du Bin heard what he said, ran quickly, leaving a sentence for Trong Triet. It seems I have to prepare well. He panicked. His voice got a bit louder. Why are you running so fast? Coach Su and Master Ho noticed them. He told Master Ho that it was the guy who had just passed by, walking in front. The night I went on a mission, in a certain abandoned factory, I heard the sound of heavy breathing. Niem Diak then trembled and pointed at the green monster in the distance and asked, what was that thing just now? Looking at its appearance, it didn't look like a human at all. Master Ho frowned, turned to look at him. You idiot, didn't I tell you not to make a sound? Use your thoughts to speak. Niem Diak then was startled and stammered with your thoughts, please, sorry. Master Ho frowned and seriously used his thoughts to coax them back. Their senses were very sharp. Human sounds would attract them. Be careful, the monster, all green with a fierce face, has been standing behind him, revealing its hideous face. The leader of the zombie was about to rush forward. His mouth opened wide, water splashed out. Master Ho was startled and turned around. Niem Diak then and the students of Supernova High School were frightened. Their faces turned white without a drop of blood, and they screamed like angry pigs. The screams and monsters echoed from inside and outside the factory, immediately attracting the attention of other zombies. The zombie leader was nowhere to be found. Great Master Ho dodged and quickly used his hand to form a seal. He pressed his hand to the middle of its forehead. Battle pattern appeared. Master Ho spoke loudly and harshly, accepting my move. The zombie leader was forced to his knees by his strength, and Master Ho quickly jumped back. He pulled out the wooden sword from the battle van, shouted loudly, and slashed down hard. But the zombie leader easily blocked it with both hands. Its kin broke through the glass door from outside and wanted to hang it in. Supernova High School students ran away in panic. Du Minveen panicked, pointing at the monsters and screaming. Mr. Ho, they have crawled in. Niem Diak then cowardly begs in fear. It's too scary. I don't take the exam anymore. I want to go back. Master Ho, who was confronting the leader of the zombies, heard their screams and frowned and turned around to give orders. Stop shouting, this guy is their leader. If you can't deal with him, no one will be able to get out. He gritted his teeth and tried to stab the sword down, sweating as he thought. Not thinking about the rules anymore, he had to protect these kids first. The zombie leader held his sword with trembling hands. Du Bin ran up from behind and said, Master Ho, let me help you. Master Ho glanced at him in surprise. He used his strength to grab its green arm. Gritting his teeth, he pulled out the zombie leader's hand, and Master Ho's sword extended and stabbed forward. He shouted a warning to Du Bin, classmates, be careful. He dodged the sword a short distance away from him, and the sword immediately cut the zombie leader in half. The other zombies immediately stopped attacking, but retreated together. They suddenly cried out. The zombies seemed to have retreated. Master Ho worriedly asked him, Du Bin, are you okay, not injured? Du Bin smiled and replied, I'm fine, just a little tear. Niem Diak then pointed his finger at him, loudly slandering him. Of course you're okay. As soon as you took action, the leader of the zombie was immediately suppressed. I see you and them are on the same side. Another boy also nodded in agreement. Yes, Niem Diak then is right. Niem Diak then raised his lips and smiled and asked Master Ho, Master Ho, what about you? Are you an accomplice of the zombies, or a witness for us? He raised his eyebrows and thought. Du Bin turned around and said, boring. Master Ho curled his lips and smiled, brushed off his sleeves, and asked him back, why do you need to ask this? Of course I am an accomplice of the zombies. In the office of Supernova High School, the voice of the trainer was heard. The bullet rang out. Niem Diak then said everything you said is true. The three instructors sat seriously at a long table. Master Ho sat next to them and listened to Niem Diak then's presentation. Of course it was true. Du Bin and the zombies colluded together. We all saw it. Trong Triet stood up to deny. Clearly Du Bin saved us. If you don't appreciate it, that's fine. You dare to spit blood. He turned his head away, snorted coldly and confidently said, Du Bin is acting well. I don't believe you can ask Master Ho. Instructor Su turned around and asked him, Master Ho, what was the situation at that time? Tell me. He put his hands behind his back, stood up to explain. Last night we encountered zombies at the place of duty. At that time, I found their leader, but the zombie leader's strength was extremely strong and could not be destroyed at the moment. Master Ho pointed at Du Bin and continued to say, at that time, this classmate, Du Bin. He remembered what he had done, recounting it to the fullest. When the zombie and I were fighting, he took action. As soon as he took action, the leader of the zombie was immediately suppressed. Niem Diak then spread out his hands, proudly adding fuel and fire. Why, I didn't say nonsense, right? That zombie Great Master Ho couldn't handle it either. As soon as Diu Bin arrived, he immediately raised his hand to face the glare. It wasn't something that had been discussed before. Master Ho also nodded in agreement. Yes, it's a bit strange to think about. Niem Diak then proudly turned to ask him, how is it, Diu Bin? Master Ho has already said so. Do you have anything else you want to explain? He calmly said, whatever you want to say. Diu Bin coldly uttered a sentence, a group of 10 fish. Niem Diak then angrily shouted, you, who are you cursing? Master Ho patted him on the shoulder and said, this classmate, don't get excited. I haven't finished speaking yet. I hope you don't misunderstand what I mean. He clasped his hands together, bowed his head to speak. Coaches, please listen to me. Coach Su agreed, great master, please speak. Master Ho turned his head and pointed at Diu Bin, startling him. I say strange because I was surprised that Diu Bin, only a dozen years old, had such strength. Please don't misunderstand. Training the historian was surprised and said, I don't understand. What the great master means is, does Diu Bin rely on his own strength to suppress the zombies? He definitely replied, yes, there is no need to doubt, he only relies on his strength. Diu Bin was startled and confused. In the hallway, Diu Bin called, Ho Tien Sin, please wait. He ran closer and called him again, Ho Tien Sin, please wait. Master Ho turned back and asked him, Diu Bin, if there's anything, I sincerely thank him. I just want to thank him for talking to me earlier. Master Ho didn't pay attention. No need to thank me. I just did what I should do. But, Diu Bin repeated curiously, but. He smiled and said, I'm a bit curious. Your skills are extremely mixed up. Using magic is completely methodical. But why do you have such a high cultivation base at such a young age? Did you get any surprises? When Diu Bin heard him speak, cold sweat poured down his face. Diu Bin was speechless. Master Ho did not force him. He happily patted his shoulder sympathetically and said, it's okay. I understand. You don't need to say anything. Cultivators all have their own secrets. I'm taking a risk. I shouldn't ask you this question. He smiled shyly and replied, thanking the master for his understanding. He suddenly remembered something. His expression immediately became serious. That's right. There is still something I want to discuss with you. Diu Bin nodded and asked, what's wrong, master? Master Ho said, we have to go to the abandoned factory last time. Those zombies must be cleaned up. Recalling the image of the abandoned factory with countless zombies that day, Diu Bin seriously agreed. I agreed to go to that factory again. Moreover, I felt that the zombies appearing were very strange, as if someone was controlling them. That evening, outside the abandoned factory, Niem Diat Then's angry voice rang out. If it wasn't for Diu Bin's riot, we would have completed the entrance exam long ago. He was trying to persuade his friends. There was no need to come to this damn place again. Just thinking about it made me angry. The other students nodded each other. Yes, that's right. A blue-haired friend said as a matter of course, if you have anything you don't like, tell Coach History. This mission was arranged by him. Niem Diat then choked, you. Master Ho pulled out a wooden sword from the formation. He spoke harshly and remained silent. Niem Diat then was trembling and quickly covered his mouth. Trong Triet's face turned pale and he did not dare to cough a word. Master Ho called softly, Diu Bin, is your side okay? He heard it and immediately turned around. Diu Bin dipped the brush in the bowl of red ink and said, done. He stood outside looking at the Dharma formation, thinking to himself, this Dharma formation was drawn according to Ho Tien Sin's instructions. Sure enough, it's much stronger than the one I drew by hand last time. It seems like just the system isn't enough. We have to dig deeper. Master Ho instructed the students of Supernova High School, when the sun goes down the mountain later, everyone should stay inside this circle and don't go out. The zombies won't hurt you. All the students entered the Dharma formation at the same time. Niem Diat then angrily looked down at him, muttering to himself, damn Diu Bin, what do you look like? Tien Sin Ho showed you this. He secretly said angrily, go ahead and use your foot to wipe away the words on the formation. At night, the wind arose and blew away the fallen leaves. The zombies crawled out of the bushes and crawled closer to the French battlefield. Trong Triet shouted loudly, "They are here." Dieu Bin jumped up, threw a spell into the middle of the zombies. They were immediately burned. Master Ho used his sword to cut each bird in half. The two of them coordinated well together. Suddenly, a scream from the French battle rang out. The two people who were fighting were also startled and turned to look at the same time. A little monster stood at the French battle, splitting the French battle in two. The strong zombies poked their heads inside. Dieu Bin panicked, took out a wire from his chest, raised it high and said, "Don't stop." Master Ho looked at the ring and immediately recognized it as the tooth of the Corpse King. The French formation was divided. The small corpse took the lead to enter. Master Ho quickly shouted, "The situation has changed. The barrier has been broken. Quickly retreat down the mountain, quickly." Niem Diet then flew up and kicked the little strong corpse in the face, angrily cursing, "Fuck. Even a strong zombie dares to come and scare you." The little strong corpse was kicked away, fell to the ground, and cried out in pain. Being helped up by two big zombies standing behind him, the little monster cried loudly. Dieu Bin turned around and cursed him. Niem Diet then, "This idiot. Damn it." He was startled and didn't understand what. "I beat the exam but you dared to curse me." Master Ho asked him with a serious face. "Dieu Bin, I ask you, where did the zombie teeth on your neck come from?" You did not answer but urged him, "Go back and I will explain later, now save the official." More important, Master Ho drew spiritual energy in the air and advised, "Hold it well, this cannot be seen by others." He controlled the spiritual energy to put the necklace around your neck into your shirt. Dieu Bin wanted to say more, but in the end he said nothing and accepted, "Okay." The little monk sat on the ground crying bitterly. Its cries made the zombies roar, and countless sharp thorns sprouted from their bodies. The strong zombies were empowered and rushed towards Niem Diet Than. He was startled and his face changed and he cursed. Master Ho and his brother each sent one flying away. Niem Diet then could only hide his face in fear and call for help. He knelt on the ground, looked at Master Ho as the last straw that saved his life and said, "Master Ho, you have signed the agreement. We must ensure our safety." Master Ho looked at Niem Diet then hesitantly about this matter. Dieu Bin turned around and said to him, "Master, I can handle this place. You take them down the mountain first." When Master Ho heard what I said, he no longer hesitated and reminded me, "So, then, be careful." He carried Niem Diet Than up and said, "I will come back to help you, be careful." Dieu Bin rubbed his tendons and confidently reassured him, "Rest assured, Master." Master Ho carried Niem Diet Than and ran. Rushing through the bushes, he panted heavily. The two of them saw a bright light from afar. A human voice rang out, and found the leader. He carried Niem Dieu Than out of the bushes. Ui Tri saw them and immediately asked, "Is everyone okay? Are you injured?" Master Ho put Niem Dieu Than down. He told Ui Tri Dieu Bin was still there. "On the mountain, I'll go help." The injured Niem Diet Than still tried to scream. Dieu Bin and those zombies were accomplices. I saw that he was wearing zombie teeth on his neck. Zombie teeth can signal zombies. Those zombies were led by Dieu Bin. Master Ho quickly explained, "Chief Officer Ui Tri." "No." He waved his hand to interrupt him. "Master Ho, don't worry about the matter on the mountain. I will handle it." Ui Tri turned to make a phone call. A large number of zombies appeared on the mountain. Location 3030. He looked at the mountains in the distance, calmly gave orders, to avoid causing a panic, told them to blow up. That factory left. Ui Tri hung up. He turned back and patted Master Ho's shoulder to reassure him, "Don't worry, Master. I have long ordered someone to set explosive charges on the mountain. Absolutely not a single zombie will leave it alive." He shouted in panic, but Dieu Bin was still on the mountain. "We had to immediately notify him so he could leave," Ui Tri said sadly. "It was too late." But a second later, he curled his lips and smiled, raised his hands. His whole body seemed to shine with excitement, and said that when doing big things, you have to sacrifice. Dieu Bin's sacrifice. In exchange for peace for the whole city, we will forever engrave his greatness in the hearts of those who supported him and applauded enthusiastically. Agreeing with his speech, the young master was right. Master Ho realized everything, took a few steps back. I understand, it's not that it was too late, but from the very beginning you wanted to kill Diu Bin, right? Ui Tri curled his lips and coldly snorted at him fearlessly. Even if I really want to kill him, what can you do to me? He walked past him and sneered, your yin and yang sect's work was sometimes not clean. If it weren't for Ui Tri's help over the past few years, it would have been destroyed a long time ago. Master Ho trembled with anger, gritted his teeth and silently prayed, Diu Bin, you must live. At the abandoned factory, Diu Bin was hiding from the zombies. He opened the system and thought, if we keep fighting, we won't be able to defeat them. We have to find that little zombie. He accidentally saw a commercial item, a regal sunglasses, paid attention, found a special object, and had a Zen eye. Can see through many things. Diu Bin was surprised. Looking at the description, this toy seems to be looking for a user. Let's try it. He took out his sunglasses and put them on. Looking outside the factory, you immediately see a lot of green and red dots interwoven. If you look closely, you will see that there is only one yellow circle hiding in there. He looked at the zombies from afar, analyzed for himself. The green one was the zombie. The yellow was probably the son of the zombie king. Diu Bin looked at the red dots, wondering, so the red dot what is displayed here? He clung to the wall, groping his way through, thinking, not far behind him is this red dot. Let's go take a look. Diu Bin looked around and was immediately startled. A large amount of explosives were attached to the wall, ticking every second. Behind the mountain, Ui Tri's car parked on the mountain road. Ui Tri sat on the hood, smiling cruelly. He pressed the trigger button to detonate the explosives, saying goodbye to you. Goodbye, Diu Bin. The entire abandoned factory exploded in an instant, the sound of bombs exploding loudly, smoke and dust rising. Ui Tri stood up, smiled like a harvest, and did not forget to curse you, Diu Bin. This time you will surely die. Not knowing his strength, Du Min Vien sat in the car looking at him. His face turned pale and he thought to himself, Ui Tri going crazy is really scary. Suddenly he noticed the stones falling from the mountain. The ground shook violently. Ui Tri was startled and asked loudly, what's wrong? A panicked man ran to inform him, Thu Master, it's not enough. There's too much explosives. The mountain is about to explode. Suddenly Ui Tri suddenly shouted loudly, how could the calculated dose of explosives not have such great power? Your subordinates were scared and trembling as they replied. Under the factory they hid a mineral mine in the mountain that had been dug out to empty. He added that this explosion exploded the ball. He immediately turned pale with fear and muttered about mineral mines. At this point, he trembled and thought, damn, could this be the private mine that Mak La Suyen once talked about? His subordinates raised their hands to wake him up from his thoughts, talking to each other asking what the young master should do now. Should he call Ui Tri's people to handle this matter? He rejected this suggestion, immediately turned around and left, waving his hand and loudly saying, absolutely do not tell anyone in the house. I don't want to ruin my image. He continued in a calm tone as if it was a trivial matter. If it collapsed then it would collapse. We just need to quickly bring the students back to the training base and pretend we don't know anything here. When he was about to get in the car and leave, suddenly a voice came from somewhere and asked, what about the people in the village at the foot of the mountain? Hearing these words, he closed his eyes and turned to the direction of the loud voice and replied, who can blame them for their bad luck? Suddenly his eyes opened wide as if he saw something unexpected. Indeed, it was Diu Bin. He was standing face to face with Ui Tri. His whole body was ragged and wearing a tattered shirt. His face was gloomy as he looked at Ui Tri as if he wanted to eat him alive. Seeing Diu Bin, Ui Tri shouting loudly in a broken voice, Diu Bin is not dead yet. Seeing him return safely, everyone shed tears of joy and shouted in joy, so good, Diu Bin is still alive. So good, Diu Bin, I knew you could come back alive. Hearing the immoral words that Ui Tri had just said, his heart became indignant and he approached Ui Tri with a gloomy face and gritting his teeth, saying, Self-righteous superior people like you always disregard human life. After saying that, he turned to everyone standing directly and shouted loudly with angry faces, I want to go save the people in the village at the foot of the mountain. Will anyone come with me? Suddenly, a quiet night covered the place where he was standing. Seeing this scene, he was disappointed and said he would leave on his own. Hearing that, everyone shouted, trying to stop him, Dyu Bin, don't get excited. This is not something we can handle. Or should we go back to base first so they can send a professional rescue team to the crowd? That villager probably won't survive, so take care of yourself first. Hearing those heartless words, he turned around and replied that even if I was here, even if I was the king of hell, I couldn't take their lives. Hearing that, everyone still tried their best to persuade Dyu Bin not to go. Suddenly, Master Ho suddenly shouted, I'm coming with you. Seeing that, Ui Tri suddenly shouted loudly, Master Ho, don't forget what I told you. Master Ho suddenly bowed down, respectfully clasped his hands and bowed to Ui Tri, cautiously saying, no matter what kind of punishment Master Mon gives me, I will personally accept the punishment. No need for young Master Ui Tri to worry. Hearing that, he was so angry that he could only scream. At the same time, in the village under the mountain, in the night that should have been quiet and peaceful, now only the screams of help, save my life could be heard. A woman holding her baby ran away from green demons screaming, someone save me. Suddenly, the demon was engulfed in flames and screamed in pain, while the woman sat down in front of the demon in shock. Suddenly a hand pressed an acupuncture point on the woman, causing her to faint, while the child still screamed and cried out of fear. Seeing this, Dyu Bin shouted in confusion and asked, what are you doing, master? He just slowly covered the woman with a blanket and slowly explained. Things about digital yin and yang cannot be known to ordinary people. I'll let her sleep for a while, don't worry. A small girl was sitting huddled in the rubble. Suddenly a demon came out of nowhere and tore the place where the girl was sitting, causing her to scream in fear. When that demon approached the girl, she screamed loudly and tears flowed out of fear. Suddenly, a hand grabbed a piece of cloth on the demon's body. It turned out that it was Dyu Bin who threw the demon away with one hand, making him say get out of the way. Seeing this scene, the little girl was suddenly startled and went to his place to thank him profusely, thanking him. He immediately poured a drop of water from a vase on the girl's body and suddenly she lay down and fell into a deep sleep. He stood next to me and sighed and replied, no need to thank me, let's rest for a while. Suddenly his face became serious and he turned around and asked loudly, how is Master Ho on your side? Master Ho was in a listless state because he had to defeat several demons. He gasped while answering, there were a few people who were injured because their houses collapsed, but no one died. The zombies were all taken care of and considered finished. Looking at the village now in ruins, he painfully said that their houses and fields were all destroyed. Suddenly he noticed that there was a green object flashing towards the land. Holding the object in his hand, he shouted that this was something that looked like quartz. Looking at the item he was holding, he shouted in surprise that this was a corpse. He asked curiously, he knew. Holding that treasure in his hand, Master Ho slowly explained that there was a special type of lava that was green-brown in color like the rash on his body, so it was called corpse lava. It is a multi-purpose material that exam preparation sects often use and it normally parasitizes in tombs. Suddenly he both turned to face the top of the mountain. He continued, why did the Tan lava corpse appear here? Of course a voice shouted towards where he was standing, Master Dyu Bin, if everyone is here then quickly come down the mountain and let's go back to the barracks together. He turned towards the voice he suddenly recognized and said, oh, is that Trong Triet? Trong Triet continued, I was worried that Niem Diet then and his group would come back and play tricks. Seeing him standing next to a car, he suddenly asked, why is it only our car? Where is Ui Tri's car? Hearing that, Trong Triet quickly answered, after he and Master Ho went to Ui Tri, he called the phone and told us to go home. He took people up the mountain. Hearing this explanation, he began to ponder. Trong Triet also knew that if Ui Tri returned to the base, he would have a chance to harm him, so why could he just let it go so easily? Then he turned to look at the mountain peak emitting smoke, thoughtfully, and continued thinking unless there was something very important on the mountain so he would ignore him. He immediately walked up to the front and turned back towards Master Ho and loudly said, Master Ho, please go back with them. I'm really not at ease about Ui Tri's actions. Hearing that, he immediately nodded and listened to my brother's words and said, Don't worry, if anything happens, I will adapt to the situation. You have to be careful. He used martial arts to jump over every cliff on the cliff, like a bird rushing forward. As he walked, he thought, Ui Tri, let me see what the thing that you value more than my life is. At this time, he quickly escaped and went close to the top of the mountain. The road up the mountain collapsed, causing many large rocks to block the road, causing Ui Tri's convoy. He and his bodyguards stood down to check. To prevent Ui Tri from getting mad, a man among his henchmen immediately spoke up. He looked embarrassed when facing the arrogant Ui Tri. Young master, wait a moment and we will clean up immediately. This way. Ui Tri stood with his arms crossed, his tone commanding, do it quickly, I'm in a hurry. While he wasn't paying attention, a shadow behind him attacked and covered the mouth of one of his henchmen. It turned out that that guy was dragged into the forest by Du Bin, beaten to death and then stripped of his clothes to change. Du Bin put on his shirt and said proudly, Lieutenant Tri, just wait there, I'll go first. Having said that, he quickly jumped towards the hills to reach the appointed place. 30 minutes had passed. Ui Tri sitting in the car gradually lost his composure when he saw that the road was not completely cleared. He grimaced and checked his phone. At that moment, a guy announced loudly, his face drenched in sweat, Young master, it's done. Now we can go up the mountain. Suddenly Ui Tri's phone rang. He picked up the phone to answer, and as soon as he called, he heard a familiar warm voice. Ui Tri family, how are you? Ui Tri was confused when he realized it was Du Bin's voice and wondered why he knew his phone number. Du Bin did not answer but changed the subject, his voice challenging. How do I know your phone number? This is not important. The important thing is, do you still need the mine in the mountain? Excited, he loudly ordered the driver to drive away quickly. The driver replied, yes, young master. Du Bin's voice continued to ring through the phone. No need to rush, Ui Tri family, just take it slow, I'm waiting for you. Ui Tri held the phone in his hand, becoming more and more enthusiastic. He cursed madly, damn Du Bin. Arriving in front of the mine as scheduled, Ui Tri boldly got out of the car and Du Bin had been waiting for a long time. Seeing that his opponent had arrived, Du Bin raised his head, his eyes full of provocation. Are you here? Oops. Du Bin didn't expect you to find this place, you're already dead. Du Bin is no less than him. He raised his hand to the back of his head and shook his head, his mouth smirking. You can beat me then say it. As soon as he finished speaking, Ui Tri's eyes looked up. Blushing with anger, he kept cursing at Du Bin, punching him in the face, but Du Bin quickly blocked it. Seeing that the first attack was unsuccessful, he stepped back, gathering more force. The other side is ready to give Du Bin another blow, don't think that's it. Having said that, he did not hesitate to rush straight to Du Bin so that he could taste Ui Tri's powerful punch. Du Bin was attacked on the left chest.